everyone. My name is Aprajita, and I'm thrilled to be here today. Why? Because myself, I came from the performance marketing world, and I'm a convinced brand marketer today. And I'm very excited to share that conviction with you as well. Whenever I come to Europe, I'm from our headquarters in Mountain View, California. There's something slightly different here, which is all the incredible partners that I get to meet here have a very special hunger to grow their businesses. I sometimes don't see that same level of excitement in some of the more complacent older businesses in the US. So when I talk about growth, automatically I have to think about how do we generate that future growth for our businesses? Clearly, that is going to come from establishing your brand as the most go-to brand in your consumer's mind. So here we are with brand building. Now, let's be honest. As marketers, we all behave a little bit like students, where we live off of performance marketing the way students live off of instant noodles, right? And why not? It's fast, it works, it's cheap. But after a while, we start asking ourselves, where is the nutrition going to come from? Same thing with branding. Performance marketing works up to a certain extent, but we just tend to over-obsess with this part of the funnel. I was guilty of that. Raise your hands if any of you have been. No hands, just a few honest people in this audience, great. What I want to talk about today is how do we think about the top of the funnel? That is the scary, the fluffy part that your CFOs will hate you for, and some of your agency's partner might or might not help you believe that that is important. Performance marketing is incredibly good at capturing demand. I will never deny that. I still love performance marketing for it. But the problem is you cannot capture demand that does not exist yet. Right? And that's where brand marketing comes in. What are we really doing here with performance marketing? Right? We're fighting over the 5 to 10% of people that are already aware of you. They're already in the market to purchase the product or the services that you're selling. But what about the other 90+%? If we are not talking to them and if we are not establishing our brand in their minds, we're losing out on our future customers. And to be honest, even our existing customers that now have other options to consider amongst us and the competition. To make matters worse, the more you play here, the more competition you will face. Why? Because every single one of your competitors is approaching this problem with the same solution, which is let's pump more investment into performance to skim off the consumer at the very bottom of the funnel. But the more you do that, the more your ad costs will increase because, the more you compete for the same keywords, the same bids, the same audiences, the more competitive it's going to be when it comes to cost. So how do we counter that? Well, Bain & Company did a study, and they found out it's not just about cost. If you're really going after growth, you have to begin combining the approaches. They said companies that invest in brand and performance together grow 2 times faster than those that focus only on performance. Right? So there's proof that when you combine the approaches, you actually get better results. Who wants to see this in action? I will share a story with you from a US men's grooming brand. Nobody has probably heard of them here. In the US, they were pretty unknown as well until they started creating brand advertising. They used YouTube for some of their initial brand commercials. And I will show you the example first, and then I'll show you what it did to their business.
Forever you and me, right by my side's where you ought to be. 'Cause if I ever were to lose you, I just don't know what I'd do. Let me hear you now.
Pretty cool, right? Once you see this, you can't unsee this. It's pretty sticky. But here's what it did to their business. They had set themselves a target return on ad spend goal, and they exceeded that by 3.5x. And also, after they released this brand campaign, their searches for their brand increased by almost 90%. That is how you create future demand and even awareness in a category that wasn't as well known. Nobody heard about their brand before. But this generated this downstream volume for performance marketing, which typically we tend to walk away with the credit only for performance marketing when it was actually branding that added that volume to your business. Here's what their senior paid media manager had to say. He said, the video view campaign has exceeded our expectations and gives us confidence that YouTube can scale and meet our goals. I always say, once you experience it yourself, for your own brand, with your own data, there's really no looking back. Because with data comes confidence, and with confidence comes the ammunition that you need to go to your CFOs and have this conversation about funding your brand investment. Let's talk about what makes digital brand building work. Now, building your brand online is not the same as taking your, let's say, TV commercial, putting it on YouTube, and then praying and hoping that it works, because it doesn't. It's all about understanding consumer behavior, the way they use these platforms, but also how are they engaging with your content? And then you design accordingly. So I'm going to share with you today a bunch of things, including the fact that your consumers obviously have a lot of autonomy as to when they're going to skip your ad. And not only do they have the button that YouTube provided them, but they also know how to use it. Skip happens, right, all the time. So let me share with you 3 brand building tips and tricks, often not used very wisely, that will really help you accelerate your brand building on YouTube. Tip number 1. Creating for YouTube is almost like a first date. Let me explain that. When you go on a first date, you probably have 5 seconds to impress the person you're dating, right? It's game over after that. Very important, the first 5 seconds. If you can impress somebody in the first 5, you're good. Now let me see if I can impress you with the first 5 seconds of this ad.
You would not believe the motherload I just dropped. And that's how I like to keep it.
I only showed you 5 seconds. If you want to see the rest, you can always go to YouTube and watch it. The opening line alone was so catchy, right? This gorgeous British woman sitting on a pot and advertising for Potpourri, which is the brand behind this. But it is something that virtually makes the ad unskippable, even though, as a consumer, you had the choice to press the skip button. That's what good design is like. You want to capture their attention early on. The results of this campaign was, again, it went viral, and it had a significant impact on their brand awareness and also their sales volume. The second tip, so let's graduate from eating instant noodles, like I described earlier, and learn how to cook a fulfilling, good, healthy meal. And I think I can give you some secret tips there. I'm uniquely qualified because I'm of Indian origin, where our spice boxes consist more than just salt and pepper, right? It's a big spice box with at least 50 different spices in there. I always think of creative strategy the same way. The more spices or the more elements you have in your creative strategy, the better, the more flavorful, the more effective your storytelling can become. Here's proof for that. The more formats you create, whether it be the different orientations, the different lens, the different types of formats, whether it be video, static images, and whatnot, the better results you can generate. Doesn't matter whether you're trying to increase awareness, consideration, or even drive purchase intent. Right? You can act much faster if you already have the ingredients or the spices ready. With YouTube, fortunately, you have tons of opportunity. Thanks to artificial intelligence, these days, you can have a big, big tool set ready, and in the moment, in real time, right? Remember that promise from 5-10 years ago? Show the right ad to the right person at the right time? That is no longer just a phrase. That is possible today thanks to AI. I always say, think of it as building a Lego structure versus a Jenga. The difference being, Jenga is one singular tower. You never want to be stuck with just one singular creative that you put out in all of your media platforms. Think about it like Lego. Your tower will never crash if you can reconfigure it based on your liking. So the stability that Lego or multi-format creative will give you is very different from riding on one very fancy, very glamorous, highly produced piece of content. Third and last, you want to infuse your creative and your campaigns with AI as much as possible without having to do a PhD in machine learning. And thankfully, that's possible. As I mentioned earlier, YouTube has all the tools you might want to look at. Just to give you a few examples, if you have long-form videos, you can use a trim video feature to cut them down into shorter pieces. You can create flipped orientations of existing videos. You can add voiceovers based on your own scripts, or, of course, Gemini's created scripts for you. And lastly, you can also dub your videos into multiple languages as you're thinking about expansion and going into other countries. My ask for you is, next time you plan a campaign, don't ask yourself, will this convert? Instead, ask yourselves, will anybody remember my brand campaign a week from now, a month from now, next year? Will they feel something when they see my ad? We're here to help you create the brands that people will talk about, they will search for, and they will trust. So my recommendation for you is stop just renting clicks and start owning people's minds with your brand stories.